So we're running just a little bit behind time, and I know people are still getting food in the back, so go ahead and get food and follow your seats up here. But we do have to start with the presentation, or else we're going to run out of time. In any case, welcome back, all of you. I'm Matt Marshall. I'm the assistant professor in sociology. I do health and healthcare, and I'm the director of the Vincent Institute. And we've organized this little panel here. There are three of us who will be talking. The title of the panel is Health Equity and Health Professions Education and Academic Research. And we've got these three presentations that we're going to be giving. I just want to introduce briefly my co-speakers here on the panel, and then they'll give a little more detailed bio of themselves as we go into this. There'll be just a little bit of a glitch here. We have to change the slides on the laptop, so we'll be running up there and doing that and coming back. But otherwise, I think I'm hoping that will be a pretty smooth presentation. Anyways, thanks again to our sponsors and to the college, President Burns and Dr. Bonnie and others who put this together. The speakers have been wonderful. The student participation is outstanding. And so we'll go to the second half of our program here. So anyways, I introduce myself. I'm the director of Vision, and I'll talk more about what that's about. Professor Alana Kavanaugh is the director of the graduate nursing program here, and she'll be talking about that program, and I'll let her say more about herself and give her background. There's also Dr. Catherine Sharbaugh, who's assistant professor in nursing, and I'll turn the floor over to her, and she'll be our first speaker. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I came to the Mount 2.5 years ago. I am a family nurse practitioner and a doctor from here. I went to Villanova for my undergraduate and my doctorate degree, and I went to UCLA to become a family nurse practitioner. So I got the East Coast and the West Coast behind me here, and all in between, right? So I ran a family nurse practitioner clinic for 27 years. And when I became a nurse practitioner in 1989, a lot of folks didn't even know what a nurse practitioner was. I got things like, you're practicing to be a nurse? And I'd have to explain. Every single time I saw a patient, I would have to explain who I was and what I do. And at that time, people really were not convinced that a nurse could do what I was doing. Thankfully, we've come a really long way legislatively in all states. We've really come a long way, but we're not 100% in all states as independent practitioners, and we continue to work on that. Here in New York, we got it pretty good, so I'm glad to be here. So I came, and I came basically COVID time. It was a tough time, and to be teaching. We all had to immediately learn how to go online and to teach and have quality education. And I was in charge of 175 students at the Mount that had to learn how to do research. And somehow we did it. We really did it. It was challenging, to say the least, but we learned new platforms, and we did it. So I'm really happy to be here. I started with the undergrad, but I am a graduate. I came into the graduate program. The interesting thing about our students is many of them live this inequity. It is not something they have to really kind of learn about. They live it every day. And so from those experiences, they have really genuine perspectives of needs in their community, which really helps us to work on research projects and real evidence-based projects. So really what my job is to teach them to find research that supports what they want to do. Because as nurse practitioners, we do evidence-based practice, which basically means, if you want quick lessons about what a nurse practitioner does versus if that's a doctorate, versus a PhD. The PhDs go out there and do all this wonderful research, right? And us DNPs take that wonderful research and put it into clinical practice. So what we teach our nurse practitioners here to do is get the evidence, go out there, find it, and support your change, your practice change, so that you can do best practices. And so that's what we do at the Mount. My colleague and director here will tell you all about the wonderful program that we have. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do to stay clinically fresh. I work 3 days a week in a shelter in the Bronx. It's a tough place to be right now because most of you realize that we have buses of people coming to our state looking for care. And I spend my days spinning around how I can help these folks to have care that they deserve and that need. Most of us look at or maybe even think of homelessness as sort of the man on the corner, right? But who I see is families. I see families in desperate need for the basics, the absolute basics of care and home and protection. So I really believe it's our role in healthcare and in nursing to be part of this solution. And I believe that every one of us has that responsibility in nursing to be a part of this, to be a part of the solution, to be a part of the think tank, to move this forward so that we do a better job of bringing everybody along, not just ourselves. That to me is leadership, bringing everybody along. So, the World Health Organization talks about, inequities and as the conditions in which people are born and live and work, and the age of impact on their health. But what I really want to talk about briefly, because I only have 3 slides, guys, is the public health model that needs to happen for us to be able to do this, and how important nurses are in that process, that we actually have a seat at the table, we have a voice, and that we are part of the solution. We are the workforce that really, in our system here in the United States, is the backbone. And if anyone really wanted to test that, you only had to look at the pandemic. We showed up when no one else was showing up. Nurses showed up en masse for 12 hours, 7 days a week, until it was done, until apparently they told us the pandemic's over. But we kind of know that we're in a different phase than believe. But we definitely need to talk about a public health model in which we address health, mental health, disability, housing, education, criminal justice, employment, drug and alcohol, domestic and family services. This is what I see every day in the shelter. When you hear the stories, you could just check off pretty much almost all of these. And until we kind of look at this in our society and not turn away, we're going to continue to have major problems because people are coming. They're coming, and they're coming to American Life. They're coming because they want that chance for a better life for themselves and their family. So I will just end with my students are doing wonderful research. It's meaningful research, and they're going to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sticking around after lunch. I know sometimes it's a little tough after the lunch session. So my name is Alana Kavanaugh. I have the astounding pleasure of being the nurse practitioner, director of graduate studies here for the Family Nurse Practitioner all your students out there, I want to say that I was you not that long ago. I like to think it's not that long ago. And I did my bachelor's here in nursing. I was a first-generation college student, born and raised in the Bronx. I came here to the Mount because I was told in another school I would never be a nurse. And so the Sisters of Charity here took me under their wing, and they said, you can be a nurse here. All dreams are possible here. And that was before we started the slogan here. But it was absolutely 100% true. This is where you came if you wanted to get ahead and you needed some help from faculty, from a college that really understood its mission to help and serve the students in which it lives in the community. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story here. So I started my bachelor's degree here. I graduated in 2007. Then I went on to practice. For those of you that are nurses, I see some of you here, and some of my former students I see. They always tell you to go into med-surg, right? First job, go into med-surg. Well, I didn't want med-surg. I wanted cardiac ICU. That's what I wanted. And so during my, actually my rotation here at college, I made sure I insert myself into an area that was in the intensive care unit. And I was very fortunate, Mary Dubino, who all of you know on faculty, was still here faculty when I was a student, and she set me up with an ICU. And at the end of that rotation, they offered me a position in that ICU, and I declined it because I had already been working at New York Presbyterian Medical Cornell. So I took a position there, and I stayed there for 22 years. I know, I started when I was 12. So, great. So I took a position there in the cardiac ICU, and about 10 years into my tenure there, I realized, you know, I'm getting a new set of residents every year in July, and I'm teaching them exactly what they need to know, and I'm always an educator first. And I said, you know, it's my time. It's my time to go back and give back. And I can tell you that the biggest change in my life was going back for my nurse practitioner degree. So I, of course, came to the Mount, because this is my home. Right? I can't imagine being anywhere else. And so I came back here and I started my NP degree, and it was challenging. I worked full-time at Cornell, and I also was a student. I completed the degree here in 3 years, and then when I finished, they said, why don't you come and teach for us? So I said, absolutely, I would love to. So I started as an adjunct. That lasted for all of 4 months until I became a full-time faculty. After being a full-time faculty for several years, about 5, I was then asked to be the director of the graduate program here. We have had such tremendous effects here at the graduate program. We brought our board scores up this year to 95% pass rate for first time. I did bring a few statistics for you because I am a statistics gal. I currently am working on my doctoral degree at a little place called Columbia University, and I am working on my ETD. My dissertation just got approved, and so I am so excited. So, So let me tell you a little bit about our student body here at the Mount. We are 92% female, 8% male. This is pretty good, thank you. Yes, female. Yes, right? But we are also 8% male, which is close to the national average for men in nursing. So all you men in nursing, you're about 14% for the undergrad level. So we want to see you more coming back to school, please. Okay. For our program here, we have currently 140 students enrolled in my program. I know every single student. I have their phone number. I talk to them all the time. Okay. They have trouble, they come to me. They don't have trouble, they also come to me. And that's what I want. We have about 30% of our student body that are from undergrad that return, just like I did, to come back to the right place on the river. Out of the makeup of the demographics that we serve here, it's exceptional. We have 22% Hispanic, 38% African American, and 18% white Caucasian student body. So we are particularly paused to put ourselves in a position where we can serve, right? Just as my colleague, Dr. Shaw, was saying, we know what the community needs. We are made up of that diversity, and we can do research that can support change that we see that needs to happen as far as health inequities. I also am still currently practicing, not as often as I used to because this is my full-time role, but I still do consult and practice at Cornell. If you go on the American Lung Association, pulmonary was my specialty in the later years. And if you go on the American Lung Association, everything written on there about oxygen therapy was written by me. So you can take a look, I've written a book about oxygen. This journey has always been about giving back and serving, which is why the mount is perfect because it really aligns with that mission for the Sisters of Charity. So this is a little bit about our program. So it's 42 credits, 7 semesters, currently 600 clinical hours. Everything that's shaded in yellow is the clinical component, which is about half of what you're learning here. So similar to the undergrad program, there is kind of this liberal arts understanding of theory, research, pathophysiology, pharmacology, and ethics and healthcare policy, which is huge in our profession. Nurses really need to have a voice and be at the table. In June of 21, the Modernization Act passed to allow for full practice authority for nurse practitioners in the state of New York. So if you're thinking about coming back and being a nurse practitioner specifically, this is the best time to do it. Within 10 years, they predict that 90% of your primary care providers are going to be nurse practitioners. And so we are going to be able to fill the healthcare gaps that are needed. And who better to do that than a nurse who really gets to meet the patients where they are, we know the community, and we know what the needs are. So here are some things that I'm working on currently for research, other than my own doctoral research, which is not on the stage. We're doing a peer mentoring program for novice nurse practitioners. And this was a theory that came up from a student. She's currently in Dr. Shaw's class. And I said to her, you're going to need some support with this. Why don't you come work with me? So her and I are working together on putting together something structured for students who are currently in the program that are going to be mentored by like-minded and like-background nurse practitioners in the field. Another thing we're working on is student self-assessment surveys to enhance student development of learning competencies in clinical courses. We actually just rolled this out last week because it was midterm week, and I will let you know how that goes. And the next thing we're working on is telehealth education for FNP students to broaden access to care and refine history and physical exam skills. So what we saw during the pandemic was that we really needed to kind of get on the bandwagon for technology, right? Just like we did here in this school, we all went on Zoom, but in offices where we still had to provide care and we wanted to be safe, telehealth became a huge thing, and it's not going away. Although some of the guidelines for billing and coding have gotten more restrictive, we anticipate that they are going to still remain and that this is still going to be a viable service that nurse practitioners will be able to provide. So this is just a brief overview of what we're doing here at the Mount. If you have any interest in hearing or talking about the program, if you need any advice about nursing, please come see me. I'd love to talk to you.
These slides are not visible, but the ones you can see, so I think we're fine for time. Thanks to both of you for these great talks and for introducing everyone to the program here who's not familiar with it. I'm aiming to focus a little bit here to talk about the center that I run, the Director of the Visionary Research Center, and I'll talk about how that's related to nursing and also about health and healthcare and how that fits in here. I just want to give a little bit of background on the Visionary Center. We were endowed in 2015 by a generous gift from the Fishner family, and we were charged with conducting public policy research. And in the tradition of this institution, we advocate for social justice as well. In 2019, I took over the directorship, so it had been operating for about 5 years. I came along in 2019, and although the policy and social justice orientation of the mission of the Fishner Center, the goals of research, teaching, and service largely remained unchanged. The center began to focus on 3 substantive areas: one in health, one in education, and one in global studies. And the reason for this, the reason that I kind of turned the orientation a little bit away from polling and public policy along those lines is because I have an interest in health. My background as a sociologist is in health and healthcare. I do medical sociology, and so I thought that that would be an area that would be fruitful to develop. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a very strong education program here that reaches across the college and also nursing education as well. And then we have many students who do work in the areas of immigration and so on, other kind of environmental global issues and so on. And so we're trying to develop that area as well. It's a kind of catch-all area, but essential for moving forward with the center. So these 3 content areas, the health, education, and global studies, are linked to the center mission. And the center mission, which hasn't changed, we've modified it a little bit over the intervening years, but basically it promotes the study of socioeconomic and political problems that confront local and global communities. And that could be such things as health inequities, healthcare workforce shortages, disparities in global burden of disease, and healthcare, and so on. It also promotes the dissemination of knowledge, so that's the pedagogical component, the teaching component of the center, that arises out of the research. And this takes the form of student, faculty, community teaching and learning. And to the extent that we can be a resource for that, we provide funds and we provide expertise and all that that entails. And lastly, the center promotes the commitment to socioeconomic and political change that are fostered by these goals of research and teaching. To meet the lofty goals, we at the Fishler have been involved in a number of projects, from papers and events to resource networking and so on. And part of my goal here today was just to introduce you all to the Fishler Center, although many of you I've met personally. I come to your offices, hunted you down to tell you what Fishler is about. In case you didn't know, now you know a little bit better. I also recommend going over to our website and taking a look at that. Some of the things that you'll see over there, which we're in the process of developing. Any students who have really great HTML coding skills, come and see me. I'll be glad to put you on more studying, maybe working on this, but we need to update the website as soon as we can. But we have a number of papers and conference presentations that are related to health. My specific area is in behavioral health, so I'm interested in mental illness and substance abuse and so on. I've collaborated with faculty over in nursing and in psychology and across the college. Again, a number of papers and conference presentations which we've been doing recently. And then the conference presentations and papers become the basis for the pedagogical component, because we have students who are working on that, and we bring them into these projects as well, to the extent that we can. We also allow them to do whatever interests them, and it turns out that there are lots of them who are interested in public policy and also healthcare policy and so on. So they put together a number of events along with us. So not only do we do this research and the teaching, but we also have been a supporter and sponsor and participant in a number of events. Again, I know it's really clear. As I was trying to upload some of this, I realized I had to put it into this 12-point font, so it's not very well readable. But last year, for example, we had a panel on immigration narratives. These are personal stories of the kind of burgeoning identity of people who come from other places and who are living here now in New York, and what that's like, and the experience of that. Last fall, we were involved with the former Minister of Education in Ukraine, Mr. Pre-War, who is in graduate school now. I think she's at Vanderbilt, and is interested in networking and developing ties and connections with other colleges and universities. And so we brought her in and had a conversation around education and particularly around education policy and also health and healthcare policy. There have been a number of other kinds of student-led events. One of them was a special homecoming panel on diversity, equity, and inclusion last year that Wanda put together, and so on. So these are some of the events that Fisher sponsored. There's a much longer list of them, and I hope to make the list even longer in the future as we go forward. So if you're interested in working with Fisher or sponsoring any event, please come and talk to us. We can provide all kinds of resources. We're also involved, the Fisher Center is also involved in resource networking. So what this means is that, at least on my side, initially for the first couple of years, meant tracking down everyone in their offices, faculty here at the Mount, and talking to them and finding out what kind of work they do, what kind of research they do, what are the pedagogical interests, what are their backgrounds, and that kind of thing. And then kind of extending that out into the broader New York regional area, and going to other schools and talking to people there and finding out if they're interested in being affiliated with the center. So this is a brief list of the faculty affiliates so far. I define that pretty narrowly as faculty I've worked with on papers in the last year or so. There are also student affiliates. Some of those we've had working on papers. You can see there's a number of student organizations we work with, like the Millennial Fellows, us, and the International Student Association are some key groups. We work with the Student Government Association as well. And then this is a list of student affiliates, those students who have done projects with us and who we hope will continue to do projects going into the future, whether they're graduate school or they're in the workforce. We try to bring them back and involve them in our projects to the extent that we can. Again, more student affiliates. There's a online event. Here are some partners. These are external partners. Those we work with, again, narrowly defined partners are those with whom I've worked on various research projects. We work with Wade Hill School down the street on developing pedagogies for high school students, and then they come and they share some of the information that they've developed and that they know with students here. Lastly, we have a list of prospective partners and affiliates. These are sort of my wish list of those, some people I'd like to become involved with, or that I have a sort of tentative arrangements with so far, especially over at Montclair State. They've got a great program in data analytics. They have a master's program that they've developed over there. So I spent some time with Professor Donahue trying to see what that would look like, kind of partnership with them, with the Mount and with Montclair State. We had recently, I guess I can close with this, recently we had our honor ceremony. This was in the spring of last year, and we invited an assistant professor of public health, Israel Parr, to come and talk to us about the work that she does, and she gave us this really interesting kind of sort of bio background. It turns out that she had grown up in New Jersey and kind of made it through academia, and here she was at Yale, and she now has a project going over in Patterson where they're looking at health, particularly among teenagers and young adults. So she's got a lab going on over there. So we're making strides and trying to work with them and figure out how the Mount students be involved in those projects and what would that look like, and can Fisher provide some funding for that. So this is just a kind of overview of what Fisher does. I invite all of you, if you're interested, to explore the Fisher website, take a look at it. Again, for students, any people who are interested in sort of updating this, please talk to me. I mean, we've done some work on it, but we can always do more. There's never enough hands in this, doing this. If you're interested in talking with me, please stop by my office. I'm just upstairs in Congress Hall, 427. I'd love to discuss any of your interests. Even if they're not related to Fisher, come talk to me. I'm always curious about what people do and what they think. But I guess that's part of the profession. I'm just interested and curious about people in general. So come and talk to me, or you can send me an email. And again, I just want to thank our sponsors here, the panelists, and all of you for your time. And thanks again. I think we can open it for questions if there are any questions. We're a little bit, we still have a couple of minutes, so anyone that wants to talk to you.
Mentioned how PhD doctoral research that is identified uniform best practices by practitioners. And I
where would we be today, right? So everyone was on board, everyone was collaborating because there was a world that was waiting for something, right? So, you're absolutely right. There is clinical expertise and research that's just on the ground because obviously we see it on the ground. So there is shared experience now, and there's a lot of collaboration between the two because there needs to be. Because we know that there's research that doesn't have any practical application. And as a clinician, we want to be able to help clinically something or in practice so that we're helping our patient. So, and there's a really important reason that there's not clinically. We don't want everything to have a clinical application. We gotta have those think tanks as well. So, but yeah, I think it's changed a lot for sure. And the doctoral nurse practitioner, which I am, a DNP, that's a newer degree, and so we're still kind of exploring it. But there's academic kind of turf, if you will, on what lies here and what lies there. But that's an academic talk.
Very nice, thanks to all of you.
Thank you to our wonderful faculty. We're going to do a 1 or 2 minute scene change, and then we'll start our next session. So fill up your coffee and don't go far. We're going to start our next session in a couple of minutes. Thank you. internationally renowned insurance broker who is the founder, president, and CEO of PJN Strategies, a boutique strategic consulting firm in New York City. A notable leader, Pamela has been widely recognized for her influential work and commitments. She's been honored by us at our scholarship tribute dinner, has been recognized for her work with the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, and has even been selected as the Insurance Advocates Insurance Professional of the Year, among many, many other remarkable accolades. And not only has she written 2 books, but she continues to give of herself and of her time in service in a variety of other advisory boards and committees, which includes her role as a board of trustees member here at the college. Both Mike and Pamela have profound personal, professional, and civic achievements, and we are so lucky to have them here at the college with as college partners and friends. Please join me in welcoming them for this final presentation.
Thank you, Gabrielle, and thank you everyone for sticking around for the full day. I do want to recognize and thank Bob, who's been running the sound and the video. Just to let you know the story, Barnaz and I did this exact same thing on Monday at the UBS private bank to the wealthiest people in the world, our ultra high net worth clients. They had 15 people doing Bob's job. One was carrying the microphones and everything else. It literally took them 1 hour to get her mic'd up. They insisted on putting the wire up her dress and you couldn't see it. And it was like, and Bob did it in 1 minute and 20 seconds. So, thank you. I do want to thank Dr. Archibald. My daughter actually did her internship and her research with him, and he helped her get an internship in New York Presbyterian and now a job at Four Winds at a psychiatric hospital. So I can attest every night at the kitchen table she talked about you because she admires you so much, and I thank you for that. And then to the 2 nurses, my wife is a nurse, and Dorothy Day is my hero. And she founded the Catholic Worker and told all the cardinals and the bishops, don't tell Bishop Whalen, I'm going to do what I want, and just give me a space in your diocese, and they tried to kick her out. She said the highest possible calling in this world is that of a nurse, and I think we saw that in those presentations and the commitment and dedication, so thank you. I do want to thank Gabrielle. I think we've texted 100 times over the last 5 days. Said to me right now how amazed and touched she is by Susan's leadership of this, and that she has been integrally part of everything with Lynn. We've had many meetings at Pamela's home, so Susan and Lynn, thank you for your commitment to us. And then we know how special this school is. A young woman from my community decided she wanted to get back into college. She had struggled a little bit. Madeline and her admissions team, literally, I think she was the last student accepted for the semester. It's changed her entire life, and she met John today, and John's going to help her get an internship. So thank you, that's the way it all works. And then walking out, I just asked Arnaz and Esther if they'd like to get some gear. You gave them new gear, but I said I know Arnaz likes to wear sweatshirts when she does her Zooms and stuff. So I see her a lot on Zoom, so we stopped at the gift shop. The kindness was amazing, but I did send a picture to those whose number I have of Adam, one of the students, and he's now going to have 6 million followers in about an hour. She bought the same sweatshirt he was wearing. It was a very beautiful moment. I got a picture, so Leah will know how to do that. And then Leah's responded with the social media, one of my students, we all know how amazing she is. So Leah, I see you're going back and forth with Esther, so thank you. So I'm co-presenting today with Pamela Noonan, and I'm not at Pamela's level, so I'm honored by the whole thing. Gabrielle, thank you for the introduction. Let me just tell you how special Pamela is by a simple story. She was going to come speak to our class. You know, we used her book, it's in the presentation, this is Pamela's leadership book she's going to talk about. We give it to all our MBA leadership students. And she was going to come speak to the class, and the date didn't work, so she said, well, bring the students to my home. Now, I don't want to embarrass Pamela, but if you have ever been to her home, it's the most beautiful home in New York City. It overlooks the East River. It's absolutely gorgeous and special. It's the warmest apartment I've ever been in New York City. She said, bring the students to me. So I don't embarrass Christian and Tyler who are here today, but they represented us. And I know for a fact that you were both meeting with her now every 3 or 4 months, and she's mentoring both of you in your careers. That's all you need to know about Pamela right there. So in the presentation, you're going to see a picture when I turn it over to Pamela. I'm going to quickly go through the beginning, and she's going to close. She's a closer. She's one of the top insurance people in the world. She knows how to close, trust me. John told me this guy did not realize I was in the military for 9 years. I wasn't very good. I'm a peace lover, but I was in the military. Pamela is a civilian aide to the military, and I did not realize it, but that's the equivalent of a 3-star general. I've never met a 3-star general in my entire life, and I spent 9 years in the military, so now you'll notice every time for the rest of my life when I'm walking with Pamela, she'll always be on the right. That's a position of authority in the military. So, very quickly, this is the presentation that Deirdre and I put together. We've taught this class the last 7 years. We taught all of the leadership models, Deirdre, Juan, and myself, and we said, we think we can come up with something equally good, maybe better. And we came up with our own model of these 5 characteristics, and it's all based on the common good. So, the underpinnings of the model is I founded a philanthropy company. I sold it to Omnicom in 2002. We built that whole company on the golden rule. As a Catholic college, we're supposed to teach what Pope Francis asked us to, the vocation of a business leader, which means leaders like Susan was exhibited today. You lead for the common good, every single person in the whole world, not just the people in the United States of America or the UK. The Ursuline School, where Deirdre came from, who has served you, the president was with us today, and then Pamela's incredible book on leadership we're doing, which I heard Tyler tell Pamela he has it right on his desk at work every day. He uses it as motivation at work. There it is. Way to go, Kyle. You're going to be running back to Pamela. There you go. So these are the 5 characteristics of leadership. We heard them all day today. Authentic. I think Arnatt's is authentic. Otherness, Bishop Glenn's whole talk was about that. The hardest thing in the world as a leader is to give yourself totally to your employees, your students, your children, your spouse. But that's what great leaders do. And then we could not have a better example of being omnipresent than John and Pamela today. We've had 3 or 4 meetings in Pamela's apartment. John said, Mike, we had lunch at the Harvard Club. I was so happy to be in the Harvard Club. I was trying to steal stuff. John, we sat down and John said, I have no idea what we're doing in this program and how we're measuring it. He put that presentation together today. And 5 faculty members came up to me and said, you've been here 7 years, Mike. We finally know what you're doing now. So thank you, John, for that. And this is my favorite all-time slide. In every religion, in every faith, the only universal truth in this world is the golden rule, which is the animal model is built up. It's the same in every faith. And, many of my friends are in AA and NA, the higher power. The golden rule is the only common denominator of all faiths for non-believers of goodwill. For those philosophy experts, I'm sure we have a few. Aristotle, Deanna, 350 years ago. As everything's coming together, I think it was Dr. Rangel, or someone mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt. She said the basis for world peace is the basic teaching of love thy neighbor. If we ever needed the world to come together right now, it's around the golden rule. This is what I mentioned. This is Cardinal Turkson. I work closely with Cardinal Turkson and Pope Francis. Cardinal Turkson is the author of what every Catholic college is supposed to teach in their business schools. We teach it here. I can guarantee you over half of the Catholic business schools are not teaching this vocation of a business leader, but that's why we're here at the Mount. Why all of this is important is the millennials and Gen Z, all of their buying power is around companies that have purpose and lead by the golden rule. So if you're not leading this way in your corporations, our young leaders in the world are not going to purchase for you. And then I went to West Point. Every day we have to memorize the front page of the New York Times, and it's a painful exercise. You have to get up at 4 o'clock. They yell at you all morning. You organization. And then one day, the front page of the New York Times was, all of us at West Point are the biggest cheaters and liars in the world because we had the cheating scandal there. And, but we still had to buy the paper. And then the next day we went out and there was a huge sign, you know, we made fun was different at the military band. There was the biggest sign I've ever seen where we all were out there at 5 in the morning. What do you expect from the New York Times, a paper that does not have comics? So that's what you need to know about the New York Times. But to prove our point, Thomas Friedman writes for the New York Times. Those who read it probably know it. I don't read it. But he wrote this book is that the entire world is falling apart. Only a writer for the New York Times could take 347 pages. 347 pages to say, when I think the challenge on a global scale, my own short prescription is that we need to find a way to get more people to practice the golden rule. We didn't need a book. You could put on page 347. This is my hero, Melinda Gates. I work closely with Melinda Gates. I think Pamela and John and I would attest, and Susan. All these leadership models are great. Everything about today is great. But the most important thing is what Melinda says. My best advice is to be yourself. Because if not, your employees, your family will see through that. Paul Pullman, the previous CEO of Unilever, he spoke here at the school in his exact room. When he ran Unilever based all on purpose, his stock went up 347%. And he says the reason for that was all based on the golden rule. So that's all the high-level soft stuff, and now, if you really want to know how to be a leader, I'm going to turn it over to Pamela.
Michael, thank you for allowing me to be a speaker here today. John Profeta, I can't thank you enough for contributing to the leadership of the College of Mount St. Vincent. Dr. Burns, you are a brilliant member of our whole university administration, students, and faculty. You are out of this world. I put together these papers because in organizing for today, I was reminded of my years at the University of Michigan. At the University of Michigan, each year, I attended a lecture much like this that the university named Last Chance Lecture. I always wondered, I was curious, why it would take the last chance of a professor to talk to students to hear something really valuable, and we have to wait till it was their last chance. Well, it occurs to me that this is nearly my last chance. A few years have gone by. So I take this very seriously as a last chance lecture, and you are lovely to listen to me. I am hoping today I change your behavior in the next 10 or 12 minutes. So you have a paper and a pen. I'm a believer in making notes, because when you take a number of the courses in the university, you will find out that writing something down reinforces your ability to retain what it is that impressed you. I'm going to go through a number of tenets of leadership, and these are very, very practical ways you can and want to become a leader. Leaders inspire others. One of the easiest ways to inspire others is very simply to make a role for yourself. Ask yourself today how many people you compliment and convince Paso del Oro to use us. You're outstanding when you show up in a room. If you can do that 3 times every day, and at the end of the day, ask yourself, what 3 people did I remark on and make a compliment to them? You will be inspiring others. Leadership. Respect is an art form. As Michael pointed out, I am a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army. The Army requires, ask Michael, that everybody respect everybody. The Army gets this across in every program, in every meeting, in every way that they do everything. It is fundamental, it is 101 to the Army that you respect everybody. What a good idea. Leaders improve the world. My daughter suggested, and I did watch a movie, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called Pay It Forward. I loved it. It stars Helen Hunt. And the movie's premise is that everybody has an opportunity in their lifetime to do 3 things to help somebody else out. And then if everybody does 3 things to help everybody out, then everybody is in that kind of multiplication improving the world. Leaders have the courage to stand up for what is correct. I tell a story in the book. The book refers that I wrote to another book called G.I. Joes. It's a true story. In World War II, 500 prisoners of war were gathered in a prisoner of war camp in Germany. And the German officer of the prisoner of war camp came out and he said to the person in charge of the 500 prisoners, I want all the Jews rounded up by tomorrow morning. We'll be taking them away. And the next morning, when the German officer came into the field, there were 500 people standing there. The German officer went over to the sergeant. He said, what's wrong with you? I said, why not just the Jews? And the sergeant said, sir, there are 500 of us here. All 500 of us are Jewish. Courage. Leaders help others do better. I want to remark on Dr. Flynn, who brought me into this wonderful university. And when I sat down and talked to Dr. Flynn about the Army and wanting to involve students at the College of Mount St. Vincent, he said to me, this will be a way for us to help these students do better. That's what leaders do. Leaders show up when they are needed. Finally recognize that 90% of success is showing up. Leaders teach. That means that when you are in a class, recognize that that person in front of you is a leader, not simply a teacher. That is a leader. Leaders are visionaries. If you want to learn how to be a leader, you have to read. You have to read biographies. You have to read autobiographies. You have to understand how and why Uber made it. You have to understand what Tesla has done. You have to understand what it meant when Henry Ford said, well, we'll just make all automobiles flat. It was pointed out today by several people that leaders plan what you need to do. John made a point of what is my goal, what are my objectives, John Stickler, how do I measure them, and how do I use today to get to where I want to be. I collect quotations. A favorite one of mine is Andre Mayer, who was the founder of Lazard Fair, probably one of the most toning investment banks in the world. And Andre Mayer remarked, all you need in life to succeed is a paper and a pencil. Leaders understand the power of purpose. Teach me goodness, discipline, and knowledge. The Mount St. Vincent motto is truly a dramatic example of purpose. Leaders see the opportunity no one else sees. How do you realize you are in a leadership moment? You see yourself as a leader. You look like a leader. You act like a leader. When there's opportunity, you respond like a leader. The needs of others come before your own. It's axiomatic to say that a leader puts the needs of others before their own. Michael Hoffman just pointed out to me that generals always eat their meal last. In my family, if you go to my children's desk, if you go to my brother's desk, if you go to my cousin's desk, and I hope if you go to my grandchildren's desk, you will see on all these desks one poem by Roger Kipling. And I'd like to recite this poem to you as evidence of what leadership is about. And I hope it will be something you keep on your desk. If you can keep your head when all about you people are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, but don't deal in lies, or being hated, but don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by names to make a trap for fools, or watch the things that you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will to say to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a leader, my friend.
It's been a long day, so there's no question you're going to top that closer. I told you she was a closer. So Gabrielle, I'll turn it back over to you. And Madeline, I saw you came back in. Thank you for your leadership today.
Thank you so much, Mike and Pam. That was excellent. Thank you, Carol. I want to introduce one more person before we leave for the day today, and that is our Director for Internships and Career Education. So, students in the room, internships, a huge piece of your college career, and we have this great co-advisory council now, our Center for Leadership, that will to connect students with great internships. So I want to introduce our Director for Career Education and Internships, Ms. Carolina Vargas, Ms. Dan. Thank you. So she's located in the Oxford Area Advising Program, which is in the second floor of our library. So students who need an internship, please go see Ms. Carolina. Thank you. Just to close out, I want to thank our wonderful panelists for today, our keynote speakers, our catering, campus events, security, and Bobby Williams. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. I want to give special thanks to Dr. Burns, Dr. Giovanni, Madeline Melconian, Pamela Newman, Mike Hoffman, John Rufetta, Elian Logos, Carolyn Vargas, and Liam Munch for all their help in really putting together this wonderful day. So thank you so much. We hope you had a wonderful day. We'll stick around. Actually, John Rufetta, Pamela, and Mike Hoffman, if you want to stick around and do some photos for us and our lovely Senator Pete Wall, they'll hang out if you want to take any selfies for the rest of the day. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time